guys, this is a different environment, different space, but I just watched the movie I Still Believe about Jeremy Camp and hearing his story. And I've heard about his songs, and I've heard his songs, especially Walk by Faith, and I never really knew who he was or like the significance of it. I don't really like follow like Christian artists specifically, but just like mainly just listen to Christian music because obviously Christianity is the biggest part of my life, and I wanted to be the most upfront, and I share a lot about my life especially, and the biggest part of my life is my testimony, and I wanted to share it with you guys because hearing the movie and just hearing about how he talked about his wife, and even if he can change one person's life, that like if his wife could change one person's life and like end it with her passing, like, and it's changed millions, like I honestly aspire for that. But even if like my testimony or my life even changed one person's life, that would be enough. So I wanted to talk about my testimony and share my testimony. I've shared it on Instagram before. I'm not sure if I've shared it like completely in depth, but I feel like it's ever changing and I love to talk about it, and I think it's one of the most important things about faith. So yeah, so I want to go in chronological order, which I might bounce around a little bit because I'm not a great storyteller, but I think that chronological makes the most sense and it pieces all the things together. So yeah, so when I was a baby, my mom used to take me to church when I was super little, and I think it's where I was introduced to Christianity first. And we were going to church for a little bit, and then when I was really little, my grandpa, my mom's dad, ended up passing away, and that led my mom to stop going to church and kind of walk away from the faith. And so I didn't go to church from then on. I never really even knew that I was exposed to God at a young age like that. And yeah, that's kind of just where it went. Like, I was never raised in a Christian household, so it wasn't like very normal for me to know about the faith. But when I was about, I would say about 5, I started like praying to God a lot. My dad was not around growing up. He just was, my parents weren't together, so it was very much I was spending like the majority at my mom's house, and I would see my dad occasionally. So that was a lot to go through, especially at such a young age. But I would sit there and I would pray like constantly. Like, I forgot how much I used to pray about it until the prayers started coming true. So I would pray for 3 things in particular. I would pray for just my dad and whatever that entailed. I prayed for just to stop hurting, because even when I was little, I would hurt a lot about that pain, and that was the thing that continued majority of the time. I prayed for an older brother, which, let me tell you, when you're 5 and you want an older brother, you don't have much faith that that's going to come true, because that's like physically impossible. They don't just like pop up anywhere, like, but I continued praying, and I wanted an older brother so bad, and I prayed about that consistently. And I prayed for a dog. I was obsessed with dogs. I wanted dogs so much, even when I'd be around dogs. Like, I wanted one for myself. Like, I wanted a dog so bad. And that's where it all began. How I knew how to pray like that, I would probably say it was from church, but I was so little that God was clearly working in my life more than I knew from such a young age. And around when I was 7, that's when my stepdad came into my life, and he brought along 2 dogs with him, and that's where the dogs come into the picture. But I think that also does answer some of my prayers about my dad, because my stepdad really did take in that role of being my dad and like standing as that figure. And he was in my life since I've been 7 years old up until obviously now it's present day, and has continued being here time and time again. And I think he's given me so many opportunities that I would have never had if it was just me and my mom, and I'm so grateful for that. And that's how the dog prayer came to be. And continuing that, I started like going to church in 6th grade, and my friend invited me to church. And I was sleeping over at her house, and it was very much, if you're sleeping over like the next day, you're going to church, you're getting picked up before then. And I was like, no, like I'll go to church, like it's fine, like whatever. And I went to church with her, and then I think I got invited to church again, and I kept going, and I was like, oh, I really like this. And we started going to midweek, which midweek is basically like youth group. Like it's like middle of the week, so it's Wednesday, and you have a message, you have worship, you have small groups. Like that is what it was all about. It was majority about getting to the youths. And I continued going there, and I just had so much fun. Like I loved it. And they were like, oh, we're having camp. So I ended up going to camp, and I was there, and they had the traditional cry night. And if you didn't grow up Christian, or that is not something that you've ever been made aware of, a cry night is basically like you are going to bawl your eyes out. Like it's exactly like you are going to cry tonight. Like this is the traditional night. Like you're gonna cry. Like you're gonna get it all out. Like, and I was like looking forward to this. And it was like one of the last. I think it either was one of the last nights or the last night. I believe it was one of the last nights. And it was like this huge thing. Like it was like, oh, I'm waiting for cry night, like whatever. And me being my first time at Christian camp, I was like, okay, like cry night, like let's do this thing. And I went, and I just fully surrendered. It was like especially growing up with the pain of my dad, like the prayer that I prayed when I was like 5 about the pain of my dad, that continued. Like that never stopped being a prayer in my life. Like that continued, because it was just, I couldn't understand it. I didn't know what was going on. And by that time, I wasn't seeing my dad anymore, because he went away to rehab, which when I was little, I was told that he just went away to a special doctor. So knowing that, and then to me, like I thought he had like cancer or something, because like I was too young for them to tell me that. But hearing he went away to a special doctor and had to go away, like that hurt me, because I was like, he never came back. Like I was like, I just don't understand. And it was hurtful, and it was like, why did he never come back? And it made me question my self-worth a lot of the time, especially also then being exposed to my stepdad and then my little sister. Like I had a lot of self-worth issues, because it was like my dad couldn't love me. Well, he did love me, but like as like a kid, like it was like I was struggling with that, and like, why isn't my dad around, why isn't my dad present? And then like I had to shift that, and then start accepting that there was going to be a new father figure in my life, and then a little sister not shortly after. And I was already struggling with my self-worth. I was already struggling with like dealing with one parent, and it was like always, it was me and my mom, and now it was me and my mom, my stepdad, and then my little sister. It was a lot of like having to share that I didn't really want to, and wanting to be so loved, and then having to share that love. It was a very hard thing. So that prayer of like my dad healing from that like never stopped, and that continued. And so when I went, I just like fully surrendered that, because I was like, I just can't handle it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And I fully just like gave it up. Like I was like, God, I can't do this. Like I can't handle the pain anymore. I can't deal with the pain anymore. And I just fully surrendered. Like I was like, please God, take it away. And I gave my life to Christ, and I understood what it meant. But I would definitely say that I didn't really kickstart my faith journey. Like that is when I gave my life to Christ, but there was definitely more to my testimony after that. So as when I gave my life to Christ, and I went to my small group leader, and I was like, I want to get baptized like right now. Like I want to get baptized here. And we're at summer camp, so it was about like a week long. And then she was like, oh well, yeah, like let's wait until we get back, like we'll talk to the pastor. And I was like, no, like I really want to get baptized here. So she figured it all out, and I ended up getting baptized with her, and then another, I call it my BGP, like my big godly person, like she was very influential in my life, and they both baptized me, and I got baptized in the lake, and it was a very private thing, which was honestly really nice. And we went in the lake, and I got baptized, and it was amazing. And then the pastor, he explained to me the importance of getting baptized in the church and how that is a public declaration of faith. And so I got baptized at the church later, and it was funny because there were so many people that went to my church that I did not know went to my church that reached out to my mom and said, I just saw Kylie got baptized. That's so amazing. Like, I'm so proud. And that was amazing to see. And it was just, God was working so much bigger than I could even understand at the time. And that's really where my faith journey started. I continued going to youth group. I continued all of it. And when I got into high school, I would say it was a little, I started playing a lot of sports, and I wasn't really able to go to youth group as much. And our church was dealing with different pastors and different everything, and I really kind of stepped back when I went into high school. And yeah, I kind of just stopped going. I felt like I was lacking a personal relationship with God. And I feel like I really didn't start praying until about sophomore year, when I would say, like, my testimony really, like, dug deep. Like, I wouldn't really say that happened until, like, sophomore year, which I will get to, but I honestly just forgot the whole part of my testimony about my brother and including that. As you can tell, I'm not a great storyteller, but yeah, so I started going to church, I got into it, whatever, and when was this? 7th grade, I found out that, so funny enough, me and my sister, not my little sister, my older sister, we are not blood related. We just grew up together. Both of our moms lived in a duplex together, so we grew up together a lot. And when I was in 7th grade and she was in 8th grade, we would tell everyone that we were sisters because we grew up together. We always rode together. Like, she was my sister, regardless if it was blood related. She was my sister. And we would constantly tell people that we were sisters, and we told our teacher that we were sisters, and she was like, ha ha ha, whatever, and we were like, no, look, we are. And shortly after that, very shortly after that, our parents all brought us in to my house, and they sat us down, and they told us that we in fact share a brother. And I was over the moon about it. I was so excited. And at that time, I didn't even remember praying about it. But I was just so excited because that's something I always wanted. And I felt like I was living in a movie because it was my mom's kid. And it was just insane, to say the least. And I was very shocked by the scenario, and I was so excited. And then I found out that he also had a kid. So not only did I now have an older brother, I now had a niece. And I was so excited, and I wanted to meet him, and we shortly after did meet him. And I was just so amazed. And that is a big part of my testimony, is even just finding out that, because it wasn't even in that time where I instantly knew that God answered my prayer. And I say that because I think that is so influential that I didn't know exactly then. I didn't instantly be like, oh, that was a prayer. I had to keep reflecting, and it honestly, months to years later, did I remember that that was a prayer, because I just kept sitting with it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. And then I was like, I used to pray about that, and God answered that prayer. And I think that not knowing in the moment is such an answer of faith. Your prayers are answered, but they are answered in time. And I had to be patient, and I had to wait, because my brother didn't come back until he was 18. I was 13 at the time, so it was 13 years of not knowing that I had a brother, and 8 years of praying for a brother. So it was like absolutely crazy. And it was also like I didn't consistently pray for a brother like after the fact, because as I got older it was kind of just like thrown in the back of my head, like I got a little sister, like that was cool, so I didn't really like think about it. But it was like a prayer from all the way when I was 5 I got to see answered, which was like so amazing, and I'm so grateful, and I'm so like, that is my miracle. Like, I would say that is the one thing in my life that is a miracle to me, and I love to share that because I also think that it shows, like, it shows faith, but it also shows just, like, God is working even when we don't see it, which is, like, so amazing, because it's also, like, my brother got put up for adoption and then came back. Like, yes, my mom was still in contact with his parents, but it's, like, the fact that he, like, even reached out and looked was so amazing, and I'm so grateful. And it's, like, our story is so much, like, is playing so much of a bigger role in God's, or in God's story. Like, our story is playing a small role in God's larger story. That's what I was getting at. But there's so much that we don't see that he's doing, like, behind the scenes, and I think that's so amazing. And that was, like, a big push in my faith, as, like, seeing that answered, getting a dog answered. Like, those were small prayers when I was little that were answered in time. I just had to be patient. And going back, sophomore year, so I didn't feel like my relationship with God was really personal. I felt like, okay, like I went to church, I went to youth group, but also when high school sports started coming around, youth group just got pushed to the back. I couldn't go. I didn't really go to church. Like, I didn't really have anyone to go with, and until I could drive, I really didn't go to church. So it was kind of like I wasn't really doing, like, the things, but I was still claiming myself as Christian, but I lacked that personal relationship with God. But I knew that I was baptized, but the connection was not there. Like, I got baptized, but it didn't, like, follow through. Like, I still went to camp, like, in middle school and high school, but it was definitely something that was missing. And sophomore year is when that all changed, and that is the year that I lost my dad. And for that story, I was painting my high school chorus room because I was an officer for 3 years, and I was painting it, and my mom called me, and this was before I could drive, obviously. It was the summer going into sophomore year, and she called me, and she was like, hey, I'm coming to pick you up. And I, being the type A person I am, I was like, no, Mom, like, I need to finish, I need to get this done. And she was like, no, like, it's serious, like, I'm coming to get you. And my first thought was I obviously knew that there was, like, a death in the family, and it was very, like, urgent, so I knew that it was someone close, but I honestly didn't know who it would be. Like, I maybe thought it was my brother, but then I was like, I don't know, like, that doesn't really seem right, but that was my only thought. And so my mom got there shortly after, and then, like, I told my course teacher, I was like, hey, we're having a family emergency, like, I'm gonna have to go. And he was like, oh yeah, like, it's fine, whatever. And so I went and I got in the car, and my mom told me that my dad passed away. And in the moment, my dad was not a present thought on my mind day to day because he wasn't around. Like, after 7, I think I saw him once or twice. So it wasn't like I was thinking about him every day. Like, there would be things that triggered it, especially seeing, like, my friends with their dads, or, like, daddy-daughter situations. Like, that would be something that would trigger that, but, like, it wasn't a day-to-day thought. So the initial was just kind of like, oh, like, it was like, I'm not really sure I'm supposed to feel about this. And I just sat there. Like, and then my mom looked at me and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, I mean, yeah. Like, because it hadn't directly affected me at that time. Like, it kind of just was like, oh, well, I don't see him every day, so, like, okay. I haven't seen him, so okay. So it was like, I honestly didn't really know what to do. Like, I kind of was just like, alright then. Like, that's what it's gonna be. And I went multiple days and didn't cry. And I thought there was something genuinely wrong with me. Because my mom was, like, crying when we were in the car. So I was very confused on why I wasn't crying the same way. And I thought there must be something wrong with me. I thought that I just wasn't empathetic. I thought that I was numb. I was like, I do not understand why this is not affecting me the same way that it's affecting my mom. And I kind of just sat there. And I honestly think I went through a breakup the day before. Not the day before. It couldn't have been the day before because I would have been a wreck. But it was a little bit before that I went through a breakup. And maybe, I'm not sure, but it wasn't that much after. And I remember reaching out because it was my ex-boyfriend. It was one of the people that I was closest with, and I remember reaching out and telling him, my dad just passed away. My mom just told me my dad passed away. And I was so shocked I didn't even know what to do. I was just telling people, and I was like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel. It was kind of just what? And those first couple days I didn't cry. I kind of just sat there. I kind of was just I felt like the world was going around me, but I was kind of just what is going on? Because it was like my dad just passed away, but it was he wasn't around when I was younger, so it was very much these conflicting feelings. And I would say the third day, that's when everything came crashing down, because it was the loss of opportunity is what really hit me, because me and my dad were not in contact, and that is what hit me. It was we were never in contact, and I'm never going to get that chance again. I never got the chance to mend it. I never am going to get the chance to see him again. I'm never going to get the chance to hug him again. I have good memories of him when I was little. Never going to get those again. And then it was these big events started playing through my head. My wedding. He's not going to be there to walk me down the aisle. My dad was not around when I was younger, but I still had this hope that it was going to mend by that point. That was still my dad at the end of the day. And that wasn't going to be able to do that. My graduation, he wasn't going to be there for that. It was all of these things that I was listing off, he wasn't going to be able to be there. And it was it all came crashing down. I was so upset. I didn't know what to do, but then I felt like I was having a normal reaction. And then it started testing my faith, because it was, God, why did you do this? God, I'm not getting the chance to ever see him again. God, I'm never going to get to talk to him again. God, I didn't get to fix that. I don't think it was my responsibility to fix me and my dad's relationship, but at the same time, it was I never even got the chance. He's gone. I'm never going to get that chance. What am I supposed to do about that? And it was also every single person around me didn't understand what I was going through. Yes, other people lost their dad, but it was right now, in this present moment, I am the only person who is going through this. It was me, and it was my grandma, and my dad had a brother, but it was I was his only child. And now I'm sitting here, and I can't talk to anyone about it. I can, but they are not feeling the same amount of pain that I am. So it was I just don't get it. And it was also the people around me saw that I was upset, but it was clear that they didn't completely understand why I was upset, since he was not around. It wasn't the same as if they lost their dad, because my dad wasn't around. I didn't know my dad at the time. I didn't even know where he was living at the time. So it was like, why am I upset? But also, like, you have a right to be upset. But it was these, like, conflicting feelings, like, no one really understood, and I could barely even understand. But it was like all of this just came crashing down, and I was so upset with God. And I was just like, I just don't understand. Like, it hurts so bad, and I don't understand. And not much after that, his funeral came around, and he had a viewing, and then he had a funeral, and his viewing was an open casket. And I remember talking with my mom, and I was like, Mom, I can't do it. And, like, I was like, I don't want to see him like that. And she's like, I don't think you should see him like that. And I was like, seeing him like that long, and knowing that, like, he was in rehab before that, like my mom was like, he's probably gonna look different than you last remembered him. And I was like, I don't want that to be the picture ingrained in my head. And so I didn't go to his viewing, and honestly, all my family was in support of that. They didn't really, no one questioned me about it. They thought I was smart for it. They agreed with me. So I got through there, and then the next day was the funeral. And I went to the funeral, and they had the front row was for direct family. So I was up there with my grandma, and I had my mom, and then I brought my best friend with me, and we were all there. And I remember going, and there was a lot of people I didn't recognize, but it was family nonetheless. Some of were friends, but there was a lot of people that I didn't recognize. And I remember kind of just being in like a haze, because also funerals come so fast after the death that it's like you're not even like fully like comprehending it, and then it's like you're digging them into the ground, and it's like it's intense, like it's a lot. And I remember just being there and kind of feeling like this like imposter syndrome, like I'm not, like, I'm here as the daughter, but like the people who like are family, but like maybe weren't even as close, like I felt like everyone was looking at me being like, but he didn't even talk to her. And it was like feeling so much like I was his daughter, but it's like I wasn't, like I was, but like it's not like I was seeing him every day. Like it was like I felt like the label of daughter was just like, I don't know, like it was just the day of was like just very difficult. And it was like kind of, it was imposter syndrome to say the least. Like it was like I felt like such a fraud, like sitting there. And but we got through it, and we sat down, and the moment that hit me the most was the direct family came and laid a rose on the coffin before it was lowered, and they called everyone up by name and by their role. So my grandma went up, mother, and I remember that it was my turn, and they said, I don't remember if they said lovely or what it was, but they called me up, and I had to place a rose on and then keep walking. And I remember placing the rose on and pulling my hand off, and it felt like the most, like everything stopped, and I was just there. And that is when like it hit me a lot, and just being there, and like, because you have to walk away, you can't stand there forever, and you have to walk away. And I placed the rose, and it was like just taking my hand, and like eventually like my hand had to come off, and that's like just like what hit me. And that was like the worst part. And then it's also like, then you just leave. Like the funeral's done and you just leave. And it's like, what do you mean I'm supposed to just leave? Like I'm supposed to just leave him here? Like, and then just, you're gone. And it's also like, he didn't have a headstone at the time, so it's like, you're there and you're at the funeral service and there's a bunch of family and you're all they're kind of looking at you with like a sad, because it's like you're directly close to him, like you and his mom. And it's kind of just like everyone's like saying like, oh, like, I'm so sorry for your loss, like, it's, okay, I hope that you get through this, like, whatever. And it's just like, you're kind of sitting there and it's just kind of like, yeah, like, you're just like nodding through it, and it's kind of like, what am I supposed to do? And it was a test of faith, to say the least. I would say that is the most defining moment in my faith, because it was kind of like you had to make a decision. Are you going to trust in God's plan and believe that this was a part of his plan, or are you going to get mad at him for taking it away and taking away your chance to make it better? And I had to really sit, and I had a lot of arguments with God at the time, because it was like, I had to sit there and I had to process that, and had to say to myself, what I think hurt was, you weren't talking before this. Would it have been any different if he was here? And that hurt a lot. But I had to sit there, and I was feeling a different type of pain, but I was no longer feeling the pain of abandonment. I was no longer feeling the pain that I wasn't loved. I got to work through that pain, and even though I was feeling the pain of loss, it was honestly much easier than feeling the pain of when I was little. And I was sitting with God, and it was really just like a he's always there. Like, you might have not gotten the opportunity to fix it while he was here, but he's always going to be in here. And it was kind of just like you can talk to him anytime. And when I pray to God, I pray to my dad, I talk to my dad, I go and visit him, I visit him much more. I go and visit him a couple times a year, going to see his grave, and when I go there, it's an immense amount of peace. Me and my dad would do nature things when we were together, and I'll bring a blanket, and sometimes I take a nap, which isn't the best thing to do, but it makes me feel so close to him, and the amount of peace I feel is showing that God is still there. God is working. God has been with me this whole entire time, and I'm so grateful. And that really showed me that I'm not going to get mad at God for this, because this is a part of his plan, and his plan is bigger than I know. And I get to talk to him every day now, and I genuinely think that that was the best thing for me and my dad's relationship, because I think we're so much closer now. And I talk to him all the time now, and he is always there with me now. I always have both of my protectors. I have God and my dad working through it all the time, and I'm so grateful for that. And that really pushed me in my faith, because that I had to sit there, I had to deal with it, I had to process it with God. I had to process that even though I might have been his only daughter and the only one in the family feeling this certain type of pain of losing my dad, it was showing that, like, I was not alone, because God was in there with me. God was in it with me. And working through that just honestly brought me so much closer to God, and my relationship with God became much more personal. It led me to start reading my word. It led me to push myself back into youth groups. I was trying to go to youth groups, and I can, but that pushed me farther into youth group. I started getting into therapy, which I really recommend, and I started healing. Like, all the years that I was dealing with the pain of my dad, I finally got to start healing from that. And it was a work in progress, to say the least, but that is what really pushed me into therapy, and that is also a really big part of my testimony, because I don't think I would be here today without it. I struggled a lot when I was younger, of just feelings of like, I don't really want to be here anymore. It was a lot. I think some of it is from my dad, and just growing up and struggling with those feelings of not feeling loved, abandonment, all growing up. Like, it was just like, I'm tired of it, I can't do it anymore. And I struggled a lot with that, and when my dad passed away, I was hitting like an all-time low. Like, I remember telling my mom, and my mom was like, I think we should get you into therapy. And I went to therapy. I went originally, my dad first passed away, and then I stopped going to that therapist because I didn't really feel like, I didn't really enjoy it. And which therapy, not gonna say it's something you enjoy, but like it just didn't feel right, so I stopped going. And then it started getting bad again, and my mom was like, okay, like I think you really need to go. And I started going to therapy, and I remember telling my therapist, I was like, my highs feel really high and my lows feel really low, because there would be times where I would get through and I would not be upset about my dad, and I would get through it, and those were like my high days. Like, I was having a great day, I was having a great time. And then there would be a day, or like May. Like, May is a really hard month for me. This is the month of May. My dad's birthday is at the beginning, and then his passing is at the end. So, and then there's Mother's Day right in the middle, and then Father's Day is the next month. So it's like, I think it's June or July. Father's Day is not shortly after. And dealing with all of that so close together is not an easy thing to do. And so this month is like extremely hard for me. So it was like when the month would come, like that would be a terrible month for me. And it was like that was like a really low, or there'd be like weeks or something that would trigger it, or like something that I would get super upset about, and I would go to an all-time low, and then I would be upset for like a week or weeks at a time. So it was like I just couldn't do it anymore. And I got into therapy, and I started going to therapy, and it definitely was extremely hard, but I would say that God was working through me with every single step of the way, because I started going to therapy and I started feeling better, and I finally was getting to a place where it was like I wasn't getting so like high off like life and like whatever, and then getting so low. Like, I was able to go through life maintaining, and even when something would happen, I could get back to maintaining. I could get back to still having good times. And that is what really, like, that is when I knew, like, oh my gosh, this is working. Like, something sad would happen, and it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm in the dumps. Like, it was like, it's okay. Like, I can still get through this. God is still with me. And that's really, like, therapy really, like, pushed my relationship with God. And it was, like, just the mental health aspect of it. Like, it was too much for me to handle. Like, I couldn't handle it. I didn't know how to handle it. Like, and it really just mended all of that. And like, that's a huge part of my testimony. It's a huge part of my faith, and it's what pushed me, that and like losing my dad, it's what pushed me to have that personal relationship with God. And I started getting into FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I went to youth group a little bit, but I was still kind of struggling with the pastor, and just not really liking the pastor, and feeling like there were some weird things going on. And so I really stopped going. And then, but I started going to church by myself, because now I could drive. So I started going to church, and that's really what pushed me. I was in therapy, so it was like I was doing all these things where it was helping me and like keeping me in stable like mental health. So that's really what pushed me in my faith. And then that continued. And then I went to college, and I joined Theta Alpha, which this is, I would say, like, my testimony is like really obviously ever changing, and it's growing, and it continues growing, but I would say like that's really like what has pushed me to like where I'm at today, and how I got a personal relationship with God. The battery died. But I was talking about Crew. So everyone was telling me about Crew, and they're meeting weekly on Thursday, and they would do worship, message, announcements, games, like whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah, but like I had other things going on. So I was like, this isn't on the top of my list, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I, spring break was coming up, my freshman year spring break, and I knew that I wanted to go on a mission trip. Like, I felt very heavily, like, knowing now that it was from God. Well, I knew it was from, I wasn't really thinking about it was from God then, but like, I want to go on a mission trip, is what I'm getting at. which I wasn't like really like, oh my gosh, like God is really telling me that I want to go on a mission trip. I was just like, I really am desiring to go on a mission trip. Like I hadn't been on a mission trip. Like this is the perfect time because I was packing my schedule so full that like I was like, this is my only free time to go. And I knew that in like winter break had already passed at that point, but winter break I didn't get to go because I went to the Dominican Republic, so it was like I really wanted to go now. And it seemed like the perfect opportunity. Clearly God was moving and was telling me that I needed to go on a mission trip. And so I start looking, and I know that Cru is a Christian organization at UCF, so I was like, okay, like let me look through with them. So I looked up Cru mission trip, like spring break. And I see this one, and there's two that are going on, and it's Bosnia and Miami. And I'm like, okay, like whatever. So I applied to Bosnia because I was like, go out of the country, like this is gonna be so much fun. And also like my view of missions at the time was very much like missions is like all around the world. Like I'd never really heard of like in-state mission trips, so I didn't really know what that entailed. So I was kind of like, oh, Miami, like I'm already from Florida, like whatever. And I was like, what could we possibly be doing? Like whatever. So I applied to Bosnia, and they gave me like the interview, and then they kind of like took a little bit to respond, and they were like, unfortunately, like we're looking for upperclassmen. And then I was like, oh, like okay, like whatever. And then they were like, we have the Miami trip. And then I was like, okay, like yeah, whatever. Like I'm wanting to go on a spring break mission trip, like if this is what's available, okay. So I was like, all right, I was kind of bummed out, but I was like, okay, whatever. And I went on the Miami, and then Bosnia like somehow opened up again. And they were like, oh, like we have a few remaining spots. And then I was like, okay. And then like I like went, and then like something like happened where like I couldn't go. Like it was just not going to be able to work. Like I think like they thought they had the spots, or like maybe didn't, but it was like something like wasn't lining up where like I wasn't able to go. And so I was going on the Miami trip, and I was like, okay, whatever. I was kind of bummed out, whatever, but I was like, all right, like if this is the plan, like whatever, I'm for it. So I was very much not thinking about this mission trip. Like I was like, okay, like whatever, I guess. And I packed the night before, and I got in, and I went to go get picked up, and there was like no one there, and I was like, oh no, like they just played a big prank on me, like. And then they eventually showed up. And then they showed up, and then I got in the car, and then we drove all the way to Miami, and to say the least, it was life-changing. Like, that was so amazing. It was also, like, to be surrounded by such a strong community of Christians. Like, they all wanted to share the gospel. They were so passionate about sharing the gospel, and that is something I've never seen before. Like, I've always been Christian, but, like, sharing the gospel, like, I'd always been focused on, like, myself and like my own faith, and it was like, no, like it goes so much bigger. Like I'd never evangelized before, so I went, and that was all it was. And seeing like how much God was moving in the people around me, like one, seeing that God was present in all these other young people's lives was amazing. Seeing how God was moving the other people that we were talking to was amazing. Like seeing all of that, I was so moved. And then coming back, then I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to join this organization. Like this is such an amazing organization, I need to join it. So that's what pushed me to join Cru. And I started going to the Thursday night meetings, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And it was over like 400 people are a part of Cru, and seeing like that many Christians like in a college campus, like being there was like so amazing, and so like it made my heart so full. And it was, especially like evangelizing already made my heart so full, and then being able to come back from that and being so like filled spiritually, and also being able to pour into others, and then being able to come back to the same organization, the same people that I just went on the trip with, because they're already from Florida. Half the people were from UCF already, so being able to come see all those people. We were all sat together like right after like I still got to be surrounded by that Christian community, and it was so amazing. And then I found out about what they call community groups, which is basically Bible study, and you get to go like have Bible study with the people in Cru, and I joined that, and I just went head first like into Cru, and it's been honestly an amazing experience. I leave for my second mission trip tomorrow, which is actually insane. I plan on filming it. I would love to film it, but I'm just so filled. I'm so filled with the love of Cru. I think it's an amazing organization. I think Beta Alpha, the Christian sorority, is an amazing organization. If you're going to UCF and you're a Christian, I would highly suggest joining both of those organizations. The sorority obviously is only girls, but I would definitely recommend joining. And yeah, I'm super excited for my mission trip tomorrow. That is my testimony. It was super long, but I hope that you guys enjoyed listening. I hope that it moves some people and helps some people. And yeah.